Hurricane Dennis coverage continues right here on the Weather Channel.
The Florida Keys have already gotten a taste of Hurricane Dennis. It's back to a Category 3 storm with top winds of 125 miles an hour.
In the meantime, who is next in line? Hurricane Dennis has an entire Gulf Coast feeling vulnerable.
Preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. Millions of residents along the Gulf Coast from Florida to Louisiana are in that mindset tonight. Welcome to the Weather Channel's continuing coverage of Hurricane Dennis. I'm Carl Parker.
And I'm Warren Madden. Hurricane Dennis lashed the Florida Keys earlier today, and it has been strengthening over the last 12 hours as it heads for a direct hit on Gulf Coast areas.
And you can see just how strong the winds were as the outer bands of Hurricane Dennis passed through the Florida Keys. 60 to 70 mile an hour winds hit the Keys, along with sheets of rain flooding many streets, and that made conditions miserable for a time.
Let's get the latest. This is just in now from the National Hurricane Center. The 8 p.m. Central Time advisory centered 275 miles south of Panama City, Florida. It's slowed slightly now, moving to the northwest at 13 miles an hour. Top winds, though, have increased to 125 miles an hour, and the pressure continues to drop like a stone. It's down to 942 millibars, or 27.82 inches of mercury.
Here's a close-up look at our storm, and it's got a fairly tight core. The hurricane force winds extending outward up to 40 miles, but the tropical storm force winds extend out to 175 miles. Certainly a lot of squally weather in the state of Florida today. We do have advisories, hurricane warnings in effect from the Pearl River to the Steinhatchee River in northwest Florida. That's where hurricane conditions are expected within the next 24 hours.
Let's take a look at the timeline now for Hurricane Dennis as it continues its march toward the central Gulf Coast. Through the overnight, we're expecting conditions to continue to increase in terms of winds and waves, and then during the day on Saturday, the Sunday morning time frame, conditions will rapidly deteriorate. Expect your peak impacts from Hurricane Dennis during the afternoon into the evening hours here along the central Gulf Coast. Well, the projected path of Hurricane Dennis tracks right over Pensacola Beach, Florida.
And that area in the Florida Panhandle is weary of storms after last year's hurricane season, and everyone there is watching the storm. Well, the Weather Channel's Jim Cantori is keeping an eye on Dennis from Pensacola Beach in Florida. We join him now. And Jim, it's just amazing that we are talking about this kind of a storm on the 9th of July.
I tell you, Carl, one of the things I hope last night is this thing was just going to continue. Remember when it came off the Cuban coastline, just weak as all get out? But boy, it didn't take long to regenerate, and look at it now. That was our fear, and unfortunately it has come true tonight. Certainly could be looking at the first Category 4 hurricane to make landfall in the month of July on record, and that's not what we want to talk about. But let's talk about this. We've already had some of the bands come through here tonight. One of them just rolling through here. Thank goodness it kind of spread out or fanned out, and we didn't get the tremendous amount of rain, but enough to knock a few lights over here and certainly cause a little panic as the Weather Channel crew kind of scrambled to pack things up. But you can see that radar showing that band kind of splitting a little bit. One of the areas of heavy rain going in, one of them going on to the west. So Mike Seidel, if you're watching us tonight from Mobile, this is all coming your way. Folks, believe it or not, we found a homeowner here on Pensacola Beach that is going to ride out this hurricane regardless of its strength. He didn't ride out Ivan, but he told us how he's going to ride out Dennis.
Okay. This is Beach Marina. I'm going to give you a little rundown of where I'm going to be staying and show you a few things that happened to the marina before and just kind of give you an overall of what we went through with Ivan, what I'll be looking for. One of the things we lost last year, that was last year, 10 months ago, that was a heavy hit for us, was right underneath here. We had about $40,000 worth of ice machines and equipment. We moved that and put it underneath the building, underneath concrete walls, and hopefully that's going to stay secure. As long as we got electricity, you can see I got the Weather Channel. I got plenty to eat and drink here. This is our market. This is where I'm going to spend my night, right over in the corner. I'm going to blow up an air mattress and break out the video camera and just see what happens here. Just the way the building's constructed, it's all concrete. The pylons go down 80 feet in the ground. The ceiling is 2x6 tongue and groove, all bolted down with steel plating. I expect to see a lot of rising water. And that's in the event that the storm's going to hit west of us. The water will definitely come up higher. That building out there, we lost it in Ivan. We had another one over here that we've never rebuilt. We hadn't had a chance to rebuild it yet since Ivan. The water level was approximately here on Ivan. As you can see, this is about 17 feet, and it's all concrete, pre-stressed concrete. So I feel I'll be safe there. In the event it did get higher, I can go up to the 3rd floor, and I think there'll be no risk of ever getting that high.
And just to set the record straight, anyone I've ever talked to who's rode out a Category 3 hurricane or stronger have told me that they never do it again. Let's hope that Chuck will make it through this one to tell me that he will never do it again. We'll keep you posted here from Pensacola Beach tonight. Carl, back to you.
All right, Jim, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again shortly. Warren?
All right, let's take a look now at how Dennis impacted Cuba. 10 deaths blamed on the hurricane. Huge waves crashing ashore, flooding, and in some cases sweeping away coastal homes. Downed trees, utility poles littering the roadways. The Cuban government has not issued any damage estimates, but as you can see from this video, it does appear it is quite extensive. And that tropical storm track, take a look. As Dennis formed in the eastern Caribbean, it became a hurricane here south of Hispaniola, moved up between Jamaica and then smashed into Cuba, and it is now in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and unfortunately taking aim on the stretch of coastline that saw way too big a storm last year. That, of course, was Hurricane Ivan.
And it seemed encouraging last night when it hit Cuba.
Yeah,
and it weakened.
It seemed like it went over the big mountains of Cuba. It weakened a lot, but boy, it has come back like gangbusters in the last 12 hours.
It really has. And as you can tell, we're in the middle of a wild weather weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Our live coverage continues as Hurricane Dennis rushes towards the Gulf Coast, where more than 1 million people are under evacuation orders.
Don't change the channel. We're back.